Hi, I'm Brad R. Cook, the author of a bunch of different novels. Today, I'd like to talk to you about my latest one, which is The Remarkable Journey of the First Road Trip Across America. It's historical fiction based on true events, and here's the first chapter. Chapter 1, Crocker Meets Jackson. Monday, May 18th, 1903, San Francisco, California. The youngest mechanic in the West, Sewall K. Crocker, tightened the last bolt on his carburetor with his wrench. Stepping back, he eyed the machine. The shop door swung open and jingled the bells above. He jumped. He always jumped. Sewall lifted off his flat-billed cap and wiped his forehead with his sleeve. His boss entered, yawned, and pointed at the Oldsmobile. "You'd better have them repairs done today, or I'll knock you upside the head." Scratching his belly, the man stumbled into the office. "You got it, boss." Sewall set down his wrench and walked out to the other side. "Looks good to me." The door swung open. The bells rang, and he jumped like a race had started. A man entered with slick black hair, shinier than motor oil, and a wax-curled mustache. He extended his hand. Sewall reached out, but instead of offering a handshake, this guy held a card. "Hey, kid, name's Bartimus Crabtree, sales representative for Passive Motors." "I ain't your kid." "Whatever, I have a problem." Sewall motioned towards the office door. "Not my first time in the city. I don't need a good-for-nothing. This is serious. There's money involved." "Well, why didn't you say so?" Sewall pointed at himself. Crabtree leaned closer. "I'll give you $5 to keep that guy out of a Packard. Heck, an extra 5 if you get him in that Oldsmobile." "What guy?" Wasn't his place to tell people what to drive, but he was curious what this slick salesman really wanted. "Dr. Horatio Nelson Jackson. You can't miss him." Crabtree motioned over his shoulder toward Nob Hill. "He just made a $50 bet at the University Club." $50? Sewall didn't even know they made bills that big. To do what? Cross America by automobile. Anyone tell him everyone who tried failed? I prepped the last automobile myself, and they only lasted 10 days. That's why I don't want him in a Packard. He's going to break down before I get you. Sewall extended his hand, but the guy shook his head. After, not before. At that, Sewall knew he'd never see the money. Cheapskate. He grabbed his wrench, and as Mr. Crabtree slipped out the shop and slithered up the street, the man intercepted 2 men and a woman. Her pale blue dress swayed as she walked down the hill. Crabtree handed them his card. The woman walked right past the slick salesman and continued on toward the shop, causing the others to follow. Sewall rushed back to the engine. The bells chimed. He jumped. A man of 30 years or so stepped into the shop. Wire-rimmed round glasses framed a thin face, and unlike everyone in the West, he had no facial hair. The black suit with a starch-white collar, shiny gold buttons, and pocket chain meant one thing: an Easterner. Sewall recognized him. He'd given him driving lessons the week before. A second man in a fedora held up his arms. "Nelson, you could lose a tire, break a fuel line, blow a gasket, be attacked by bears or bandits. Why, the whole contraption could explode." The man pulled off his hat, and his arms fell hard against his sides. "This is too dangerous." "Archibald," Dr. Jackson patted the man's shoulder, "you make the same point as my wife. I need someone who knows automobiles. Certainly there will be rough patches, but with the right automobile, a capable mechanic, and good fortune on my side, there's nothing to fear." Sewall perked up. "Can I help you?" "Hello, Mr. Crocker, right? It's Dr. H. Nelson Jackson and my wife Bertha. You assisted us with driving lessons." "I remember." "Ah, excellent. This is my associate, Archibald. I seek the owner of this establishment." "Nice to meet you again, ma'am." Sewall tipped his cap to the woman. He rubbed his palms on his pants to clean them. As he extended his hand, Dr. Jackson shook it eagerly. "What do you need?" "A real mechanic," Archibald grumbled. Sewall eyed the Weisenheimer. Nelson shooed his friend aside. "I've made a wager to drive across this nation. I require a mechanic and a recommendation for the best automobile. Is the owner around?" Sewall motioned his chin towards the back. "He's in the office, but I'd better help you." You're so young, Bertha said. Been fixing machines all my life. Archibald turned toward the door in the back. What he doesn't need is a kid playing shop. Seawall wrung the wrench in his hand. You can't stop. You can stop with all that kiddo stuff. Haven't been a kid since I started working on engines. Archibald walked over to the door labeled office in black lettering. Seawall eyed the goop waiting for him to figure out what everyone in San Francisco already knew. Archibald opened the door and stepped inside. Hello, excuse me. Hey, buddy. Shaking his head, Seawall turned to Dr. Jackson and his wife. I started racing bicycles up in Washington. Switched to engines just meant going faster. Dr. Jackson smiled. Archibald stepped out of the office. He's out cold. I couldn't wake him. What'd I tell you? Seawall cocked his head to the side. This won't be like driving around in the city. There'll be rough roads out there. Dr. Jackson kissed his wife's gloved hand. I imagine it will be. So invigorating. My husband, Bertha touched Dr. Jackson's cheek, though classically trained as a physician, is an automobile enthusiast who always keeps his eye on the latest model. Dr. Jackson chuckled. Don't let this one fool you. Her interest in automobiles exceeds my own. Seawall pulled down on the pill of his cap. What kind of automobile you taking? I met a nice man from Packard Motors. Perhaps their automobile would be a good choice. Nah. He shook his head. I mean, the Model C is nice in the city and all, but it struggles in the mountain. It's nice and all, but it'll struggle in the mountains. We could do it in a 20-horsepower Winton touring car. A Winton? Dr. Jackson rested his hand under his chin. Seawall nodded. It'll carry you through if anything will. And the adventure continues from there. Hope you'll enjoy it. Do check it out. You can get it wherever books are sold, online and all that kind of stuff, or get signed copies on my website, bradarcook.com. Have a good one.